Hello, and welcome back to Chapter 4 of Always Ours. History. Summary. What the other people believe happened to bring Splinter into their lives, and a glimpse at the first proto-entry into the journal. Hisashi Yamada would never forget the day he met Hamato Splinter. Not that he'd known the name yet. He wasn't even supposed to be out there. As a Limelight hero, Hisashi didn't usually draw night patrols, but Aizawa had been benched after a quirk incident, one of the dangerous classifications, pheromone-based, decision-making compromised, mandatory leave, no argument. Hisashi had been dropped into his patrol zone to cover. If there was one thing he could say for his former classmate, it was that Shota's reputation alone kept trouble from starting. He didn't need to be present to make people behave. Hisashi had always respected that, envied it even in the way you envy something you're constitutionally incapable of replicating. He'd liked Shota since school, liked Oboro too, but Oboro had been so bright and effortlessly beloved that Hisashi had never worked up the nerve to push close. Shota was different, quiet, prickly, wrapped in something that kept people at a careful distance. Hisashi had always wanted to be the one who got through anyway, the one Shota actually let in. That had never quite happened. He'd offer warmth, help, friendship, and Shota would take it with a flat stare and a reluctant grunt. Never rejection exactly, never real acceptance either. Hisashi told himself it was fine, told himself to be patient. He needed to believe patience would eventually mean something. He needed someone to need him back. So when he heard the noise near the dumpster, the sharp rattle, the low hiss, the unmistakable warning growl, he thought of Shota immediately. Maybe a cat. Shota loved cats in the way people loved things they'd never admit to. If Hisashi could coax it out, bring it to him. But when his flashlight beam landed on the figure crouched in the alley, it wasn't a cat. It was a man, or close enough to one to stop Hisashi's heart for a full second. Crouched low, injured, trembling, baring sharp teeth like something that had been cornered before, and learned not to wait for the trap to close. For one moment, Hisashi thought of Netsu, only larger, only feral in a way Netsu had spent years carefully burying. "Hey," Hisashi said softly, the way he'd learned to talk around Shota. "I'm not here to hurt you." The stranger growled anyway. Hisashi called Netsu. When Netsu arrived, the growling stilled. The stranger spoke, halting English, careful with each syllable like someone who'd learned the words, but rarely used them aloud. "Who are you?" "I am Netsu. And you?" A pause that stretched long enough to feel like a decision being made. "Hamato Splinter." After that, Hisashi's life had another access. Netsu assigned him to help Splinter adjust, and Hisashi threw himself into it with the way he threw himself into everything, completely, loudly, with both hands. Splinter didn't remember much. Not where he'd come from, not why he spoke both English and strangely accented Japanese. But he accepted Hisashi's help, slowly, reluctantly, in the way a creature accepts warmth it doesn't entirely trust yet. That was enough. More than enough. For someone who'd always wanted to care and always been afraid of having that care turned away, Splinter's slow acceptance felt like something he hadn't known he'd been waiting for. He taught him the metro, how to order food, how to answer a question without frightening the clerk. Small things, ordinary things, things that mattered anyway. Hisashi needed that, and in return he gave everything he had. That's why the USJ had broken something in him. Bursting through the smoke to find Splinter, muzzle red, growling, shielding Midoriya with his own body and calling his name, only to see no recognition in those eyes at all. It had hurt more than he knew how to say. But Hisashi was patient. He'd been patient with Shota for years. He'd be patient with Splinter too, as long as it took, until his friend found his way back. Netsu had believed, genuinely, that he was the only one. He'd ensured it, with tooth and claw and fire and code, ending the people who had made him and burning every record they'd kept. He'd been thorough. He'd been certain. Certainty, he had learned, was the first symptom of an incomplete threat assessment. He'd always known, in the abstract, that he'd been born in a litter. The animals that composed him were not solitary creatures. A litter implied siblings, good scientists, and his tormentors, for all their monstrousness, had been good scientists, did not work from single samples. He had simply chosen not to follow that thread. After his escape, he had clawed his way into legitimacy, claimed citizenship, fought for a hero license, pursued education with the focused intensity of someone who understands that credentials are armor. He had chosen his hero name as a promise that he would raise the next generation to do better than the ones who had made him. And then Hisashi had called him about something in an alley, and Nezu had gone out of professional courtesy and arrived to find every carefully cultivated instinct screaming at once. Older, larger, one leg badly healed, weight distributed around old damage, but unmistakably, undeniably like him. Nezu dropped without deciding to. Years of polish dissolved. He went to all fours on the filthy ground, tail moving in ways he never permitted in public, every motion shaped by something older than thought. Pack behavior, approach signals, the vocabulary of animals that lived in groups and knew better than to treat a frightened creature like prey. The stranger's growl shifted, cautious approach instead of warning. "Who are you?" The English was careful, deliberate. "Nezu," he said, resisting every impulse toward his usual deflective riddle. "And yourself?" A long pause, then Hamato Splinter. A name, a human name, Japanese even. His own designation had been a case file reference he'd shortened because he refused to forget what had been done to him. But this one had been named, which meant caretakers, or at least observers who had thought of him as something more than an experimental subject. A different program, a different country, hidden long enough that Nezu had never found the thread. The pack instinct was immediate and overwhelming. Mine, my kin, my responsibility. He swallowed it carefully. Instinct could comfort or it could frighten, and this creature had been frightened enough. So he signed Hisashi instead. Let the warm, loud, desperately caring hero be the bridge. Hisashi needed someone to protect. Splinter, reluctant as he was, would not be able to hold out against that forever. And when the situation with Aizawa's class arose, the expulsion incident, the parents, the homeroom vacancy, Nezu had looked at the open door and thought of Splinter needing grounding, needing purpose, needing somewhere to belong. He saw no reason to argue with fate when fate was finally cooperating. Entry 1. Bad day. Aizawa Sensei is the worst. Who does he think he is, deciding who has potential after knowing us for a few hours? He wouldn't even pass his own test. His quirk just stops other quirks. That's it. No strength enhancement, no fire, nothing that looks like power. It just cancels things. And this man gets to decide who becomes a hero? He lets that creep get away with making the girls uncomfortable. He let Bakugo attack someone. He looked at us like we were already failures and he was just waiting for us to confirm it. It's not fair. It's not right. I bet he doesn't even know half our names. He just looks tired, like he's already given up. Maybe tomorrow he won't show up. Or if he does, I don't know why I'm writing this. I want to see if he can look worse than today. Entry 2. This is insane. Aizawa showed up today looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Pale, stumbling, bloodshot. Almost exactly like I wrote it. It can't be. That's not possible. I'm just venting. That's all this is. But I know what I wrote. Did I do this? Entry 3. He keeps getting worse. Every day he comes in more broken, more exhausted, like the life is draining out of him slowly and no one is noticing. Maybe it really is me. Maybe it's this journal. If that's true, shouldn't I fix it? Shouldn't I make it better? I wish we had a different teacher, one who actually cared. And that's the end of that chapter.